Yeah, told me.
Okay, I think we've gone live. Hi, Ruth. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks, Katrina. Thanks for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. You're such an interesting person, and you've brought so much to my life and showed up at a time that was really, really difficult. So I really wanted to share your wisdom with the world whenever possible. So welcome anybody who's joining us live to Conversations on the Socials, where I just bring on awesome people who are lifting up humanity, and we just have a yarn, and it's for the benefit of anyone who's interested in the topic. And the topic today is we're talking about death, which it is one thing that can stir a strong reaction, but it is one thing that we all share in common, that we our mortality and having to face that with the people we love in a variety of settings. So, Ruth, would you describe what it is that you do in that space for us?
Certainly. Thanks, Katrina. Yes, I'm an end-of-life doula, and that means I'm a non-medical support person for an individual or their family at the end of life. I actually find myself more in the educative space these days, but what a doula does, and we sit across a vast spectrum of life, from people being entirely well and just simply wanting to get their affairs in order and make sure that they've kind of got themselves together with their will, their powers of attorney and enduring guardian, and getting their advanced care plan together.
Mm-hmm.
And an advanced care plan is the medical document, which is the next best thing to the person speaking their own wishes, except that it's used when they can no longer speak for themselves.
Yeah.
I'm also in the space where people may have had a diagnosis and then, might ask me or another doula to come and assist them getting their not only those documentary affairs in order, but to help them in a physical way, in actual care, and getting their house organised, ready if they want to stay. Their decision may be whether they want to stay home to end their life, or whether they want to go into hospital. That may be a choice they have, and it may be that they don't actually have a choice about these things, depending on the severity of their illness.
There's just so many variables, isn't there, of how one's life could end up in that scenario. Yeah.
And honestly, I've been doing in this role now for about over 9 years, and every death is different. It is so different. And people will call on me to really, in some ways, I'm there, as I said, from before any kind of diagnosis through into a diagnosis, perhaps supporting a person in their last stages of their terminal diagnosis or their frail, aged situation. I may be part of the vigil for the family when they're looking after their beloved over the last weeks and days. And I'm also called in after the death of a person. And so a doula might be involved in the physical care of the body. We are able to take people home after their death, and I have a cold plate, but there are other means to be able to look after a person at home. And
which is kind of where our story begins in a way, isn't it? Because my backstory is that my mother had already thankfully had a end of life health directive, and we'd had lots of conversations about what that might look like for either of us. Her because she was older than me, and me because I'd already had stage 3 cancer. So obviously the possibility of life ending sooner than I had planned was a topic of conversation and continues to be. So when Mum died suddenly, I already knew what her wishes were, which was to do it at home. She already said she didn't want to be in a situation where she couldn't look after herself. So if she were to find herself unable, that she would want a voluntary assisted death. But in the scenario that we had, it was very sudden, catastrophic stroke, and she only spent 2 days in hospital before she passed away. And I rang Ruth from one of the corridors in the John Hunter Hospital and said, look, somebody gave me your number. My mum's got these particularly uncommon wishes, is what I thought they were uncommon. Can you help me? I want to take her body home and do this. And Ruth at the time was in Sri Lanka. And thank heavens she took my email and called me and said, well, yes, we can. And you can call this person and they'll help you. And I have this thing called a cold plate. So you can take that and you put that in your house, and so that the body can remain as minimally unchanged as possible while you do that vigil. And thank you so much for that, Ruth. And she hooked me up with the people I needed. And I can't thank you enough for being attentive and flexible. And thank you.
Oh, thank you. It feels like such a privilege to be in this role. I came to it actually quite unexpectedly. I'd been a TAFE teacher teaching maritime studies, so I was in this kind of very concrete, watery world. But I had my own health scare, and it really alerted me to my own mortality, and it interested me in the idea of having a conversation around who are we and why are we here. And so that led me into this field. And not long after I had that experience, one of the training doulas came into Newcastle, and I was able to do death doula training, not intending to become a death doula, but, it came into my realm, and I was so kind of passionate about having these conversations, who are we really, and how can we best employ our lives to experience life fully. And it was such a great opportunity, and I was very passionate about it. And then people around me realised how passionate I was, so they kind of started coming to me, and then I started getting clients, and also as a masterclass, as life happens.
Yes.
My late husband was also talking about shortening his own life. He had problems and was ready. He had a lot of pain, and he was ready to end his life. And just having had that training helped me have the discussions with him and not to kind of shut him down or try and minimise what was real for him. So I had a really huge masterclass 2 years in from my training as a death doula. And when my husband actually died, he chose his death. It actually helped me understand that I could support him and love him out as much as the difficulty of having someone choose their own end. But I really understand that was a life choice for him. And, a shock and surprise as it was, I know it's a really difficult subject, but I found that he gave me a great gift in that experience. And so I feel also that, with all the different families that I meet, that each of them has provided me with a beautiful, beautiful opportunity for my own growth, but also to be able to help people through whatever difficulty they have has been such a blessing. And I just feel so privileged in this world.
It really is it is sacred space when we're talking, and it's uncanny. I mean, how much life rushes in when you're being really present with your death or the death of something. Like, life becomes so vibrant and precious, and the mundane things fall away, and any conflict you've had becomes, just goes into the background because of the love that remains. And it's not for everybody, but I certainly felt really comforted to fulfill my wishes, and really comforted that should I get sick again and not be able to recover, that I could have some control and some say in how that might finish. Yeah. So, but a lot of people, as I found out, don't realise that this is an option. They just know that, Grandma passed away and we went with this funeral director and we did it this way and we do it that way, and they've not really given it any thought. But there really is a lot of other options, and starting the conversation early, gosh, it helps.
Yeah, it certainly does. There are so many ways that we can help love our people out. We can develop rituals ahead of the death of a person. I've had living funerals for people who one particular person who was so clear what she wanted in her funeral. I suggested that she have a living funeral, which she did 2 weeks later, and she was able to tell everyone at that event that their memory wasn't correct, only hers was the correct one. She was able to kind of have that comeback to each of the guests and people who were sharing their stories. It was a very interesting and fun event, and I know the family felt very much that their mother had gone out in a blaze of glory, the way she would have wished, and the way she did wish.
Yeah, how beautiful. And I'm sure it would be difficult, to do that, and emotional, but geez, the power in it. I mean, it's just so mind-blowing. And especially after having, previous to Mum's sudden death, being a bereaved parent and having an experience where there was no control and no time being able to be spent with the body. And, this just even for the young people around us, like her granddaughters and her grandsons, the trauma is so much less because they've had time, a lot of time, and they've seen us go through this process where it's incredibly painful and people are crying, but we're okay. And it's not just he's here 1 minute, he's gone the next, and it's all just horror. Yeah. So, gosh, I can't rate it enough.
And I have to say, with the cold plate and taking someone home and looking after them on a cold plate isn't everybody's idea of what they would wish for. But I have seen the young children or grandchildren of elderly people running around like as children do, perhaps cutting out pictures or drawing pictures onto a coffin, and a death being a normal thing to the children, saying, we can make noise now, grandpa's gone, and we can, they can understand what's happened. And in some moments they're they're deeply aware of that transition, but in the other moments they're fully their child selves, and it's real for them, and that person hasn't been disappeared and hushed and dropped out of their life as if they didn't exist. And so I have seen some beautiful, beautiful experiences with young children and their deceased grandparents.
Yeah, definitely. And that would certainly be what I would choose if my daughter was have to go through losing me early, or anybody else. That'll be the way that we go. And also having lost a child, my stepchild, but the power of being able to have that body and having that time would have been game-changing. And I guess it really struck me when we were leaving the hospital, mum's body home, that there would be parents that day, you know, or in the past or in the future, that would have to take their child down to the morgue in the hospital and then drive away. And it just filled me with horror that these parents might not ever know that they had a choice, that they could take their baby home, they could take their child home, they could spend the time that they needed. And there are people like yourself, and there's people like Bernadette Connolly and other people who can help you do that, and that there's nothing scary. I want everyone to know. I want all allied health to know. I want social workers at the hospital to know that this is an option, and to be able to point people in the right direction.
Yep. And even to, you know, as a doula, I get to work with palliative care teams, and there's plenty of them that don't know about the role of the doula. I guess as a doula is a role that was once an important role in a village, but now we're kind of reinventing that role in the modern day. So, getting to know our end-of-life teams, because we work together. Excuse me, I'm going to cough.
Sneeze. Hay fever.
Sorry, dry throat.
Yeah, that's all right. I'm wondering. Come on, lost it. There it is.
Yes. So working with those end-of-life groups, with the palliative or geriatric doctors, with the palliative care team, with some of the occupational therapists who work in the community, a doula can be a great adjunct. And I have been able to work with families, and I try very much in my space to step back from the adult children of the person who's dying, but to allow if I've been invited into a family, it's often because they kind of want some sort of permission to do whatever it is they're doing. I'm going to cough again.
Yeah.
And I have been able to just stand in the background while they look after their person, their parent, and just provide some reassurance and confidence that what they're doing, taking their person home while they're alive, or after they've been deceased in the hospital, that they can bring their person home and look after them with the care and love and support, and that they can do it in whatever way they want. I mean, there are some cultures that are very good at bringing their deceased person home and having a 3-day vigil. That's quite common in many cultures. And sometimes for those of us that have come from a very Anglo culture, that perhaps wasn't done. We disappeared our person fairly quickly. So it's great for them to know they've got permission or encouragement with someone who's confident in that space.
And to have that person be able to speak to the professionals around you. And because the response I got from the nurses on the ward were, "You want to what? You can't do that." Well, I'm pretty sure I can, but I talk to this person because I can't explain to you why I can. They can. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, and that's it, to be able to take your person home from hospital, to bring them home, to let them rest for a day or 2 or 3. In fact, we can take someone home for up to 5 days. I've never looked after anyone for longer than 3 days, but it is possible and certainly legal, and it is a beautiful experience. And I certainly young parents who have neonatal deaths or stillbirths, are really encouraged to take their babies home, to get to know them, to look after them, to kind of bond with that little child for as long as they possibly can, because it is so important that their baby is a real human being, and to spend that precious time with them, to get to know them and to share that experience with their family. Although stillbirth isn't that common, it does happen, and certainly we encourage people to look after their little one at home for as long as they possibly can.
Yeah. And do you think, do you know whether that message is like in the hospital system as well? Do you think, or is it different?
Yes, I think certainly for neonates, I think that is in the hospital system these days. I think people are encouraged to do that. But it's not widely done, but it is known, and a little more encouragement for those little babies.
Yeah, great. Heavy topic, but we just can't. I don't think there's any benefit in burying your head in the sand. Whenever I was not involved in actively thinking about the end of life, it just felt like death was this scary grim reaper that was just in snatching us out of the darkness, and it would wake me up in the middle of the night. And now that it's just something I talk about every day, and I'm around people like yourself, and I encourage my dad, and I just did his end of life plan the other day. It's still upsetting and it's still scary, but it's not as scary anymore. There's potential for sacred beauty as well.
Yeah, and the more we can talk about it, the more we can develop a plan. It seems to me that the more we can live fully right to the end, instead of wondering and not knowing. There's some big black wall coming up, and we don't want to. Let's not mention the elephant in the room.
The D word.
The more we can talk about it, the more we can normalize it, because death is not a failure. Death is a part of life. It's an aspect of life. It's not the opposite of life. And also death is a process. It's not, in very few occasions it may be, here 1 minute, gone the next, but mostly it is a process. And whereas we are in the process of dying at our end of life, and it's it goes on for weeks, months, and I'm sure people who have had illnesses, and they live with their life-limiting illnesses for years and years and years. And how do you best live your best life, even knowing that you've got this, kind of had the terminal diagnosis? And how are you going to live in the most full and rich and life-affirming way right to the end? And a doula can help a person work those things out, and help with planning, help with actual care, gathering people, gathering items, gathering equipment, and a doula can offer supports and encouragement, gathering the crew, all those people that say to somebody who's been given a diagnosis, just let me know if I can help. And you're so full of your own, I don't know where to start. What a doula would say, yep, give me your email address, give me your phone number, I'll put you on the list and we'll let you know when, Thursday night we need the schnitzel or the lasagna or the dog walked or the garden made up, or we can find all those, we can get those tasks kind of allocated without the person who's got the illness or the diagnosis having to try and compute all of that, because it's overwhelming.
Like you're not really in a place to be project managing your own death, are you? Or you'd rather be, I know I would rather be, really thinking very deeply about reflecting and what conversations I want to have and how I want to have them and what might happen after my heart stops, and maybe taking some psychedelics or something.
Yeah, well, that's
happens,
part
isn't
of
it?
Yeah, that really is. Yeah, I think that's becoming a very I won't say common, but it's certainly, the discussion around that is becoming much more real, and people are using psychedelics and CBD, and thinking about other ways that they can manage pain or mental suffering. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So wonderful. Thank you for everything that you bring. And I guess one of the questions that one of my friends wanted me to ask you was, if you're to find yourself in a situation where you're in hospital or your loved one is already in the hospital system and you want to sort of be at home or have this more holistic type of end-of-life care, what do you do? What's the first thing you should do? Who should you contact if you're in the Newcastle sort of area? And if you're not in the Newcastle area, what do you do?
Okay, so it is possible, and you may find some pushback from the medical community. They kind of like to look after people, and that's what they're trained to do. And so, as you experienced already, you get some pushback because they're not used to breaking out of the mold. But the statistics say that about 70 to 80% of people would like to die at home, but only about 14% do. Many people are taken, because of panic, perhaps, are taken to the intensive care unit. And so once there, perhaps if a person's been stabilised and had their medications sorted, it is possible for them to come home if we've got equipment set up. And to do that does involve some planning, particularly ahead of time. So if you've had a diagnosis and you do want to die at home, then I suggest to people that when they're early on in their diagnosis to get themselves sorted so that they do have sufficient equipment at home, so that they've got handrails if need be, and kind of allow for the sorts of changes that are going to come. And I know the same happens to elderly people, that if they haven't planned to stay at home, they often are taken to aged care because they can't be managed at home because of a situation. So the same thing is, it involves having a discussion early enough to be able to to modify a home and make sure there are fewer steps and more handholds, and perhaps a bed that can be adjusted, various aids that they can have. I just urge people to have those conversations sooner than later, so that you're not trying to do it in the midst of a crisis. If something happens and, somebody's had a fall and then you're in the crisis, and then it takes longer to get all those items back in place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So should
yeah, I
they
think
contact Newcastle Compassionate Communities, or is there a particular? Would that be
yes. So,
I mean, that's what I
so
thought would be the first contact, maybe.
yes. So we're part of Newcastle Compassionate Communities. You and I,
Yes.
and Bernadette, as you've mentioned, and there are a number of other people who are involved in Newcastle Compassionate Communities, and we're a group of people who are looking to support people where we can to make sure they can stay at home if that's what's wanted, to think about how we can support someone at the end of life in the best possible way. So, if they don't want to be alone, so that they could have a volunteer companion come and support them. And to that end,
So would we say that most of the people involved, like if someone were to message Newcastle Compassionate Communities on Facebook, they would be put in contact with somebody who could point them in the right direction, at the very least?
Yep. There would be a number of doulas who are active on that Facebook group who would be able to step up and offer some sort of support, and basically you get the support of a group of doulas and a group of people who are particularly interested in end-of-life care. There are nurses in there are doulas, there are occupational therapists and so on in that group.
There's funeral directors, there's
funeral directors, there are celebrants.
There's also pastoral care, there's everything, isn't there?
Pastoral care, spiritual care people. Yep, absolutely. Yep. And so Newcastle Compassionate Community is a good place to look. And I know, can I put the plug in for an event?
Please.
That Newcastle Compassionate Communities is running a Death Over Drinks at the Grain-Fed Brewery at New Lambton on the 14th of October, and that's going to be from 5 till 7 on the 14th. That's a Tuesday. And you can find the details in the Newcastle Compassionate Community Facebook pages, and it may be elsewhere as well. And that's just for anybody that would like to come and have a conversation with a group of doulas, with some allied health and health personnel who are in the new ComCom, as we call it, and you can come and have a drink and a piece of slice of pizza and a good conversation.
Yeah, and I recommend bring a loved one, because way back in the day, Mum and I had stumbled across a grief and death workshop that Lola had run, and that's how we had opened up the conversation between us of her not wanting to be a burden and me trying to convince her that looking after her wasn't a burden. And so just bring the person that needs to hear it, or bring the person who's like-minded like you and like us and wants to live better by acknowledging our mortality and doing it better.
Yep, that's right. And so do please bring people. And I might also add, since New South Wales has started with the legal voluntary assisted dying, which has been going now nearly 2 years. A doula can also help in that space, just in the conversations, but in supporting a family, not just because the VAD is still a very medical procedure. So having a doula
stands for voluntary assisted death, because I didn't know that before. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So it's very medical. So to have a doula as part of your team will be a way to help manage the kind of psychosocial aspects of that decision and that death. And you mentioned Lola, who was a recipient of the voluntary assisted dying a couple of months ago. She had a team around her, and it made a very beautiful, very well supported event for her, and that's not just her friendship groups, but just having that emotional support through the process is a really important thing. It's a big event.
Yeah. And if you're, I can imagine if you're in this space already and, you know, you've already planned for something like that, that you do need, I would want people around my family to help them, because I'm out, you know, I can't anymore. This has actually got to be about me, and I can't be worrying about you. So if I know that you've got Ruth and you've got whoever else around you, and they're going to help you, then I can go comfortably, or as comfortably as possible.
Yeah. We can support someone out beautifully. That's right. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. So many questions. So if, in particular me, I was so curious about this voluntary assisted death and what does it look like, and, you know, is it painful, and how do you do it, and all that kind of stuff. So I think if you're really interested in hearing more about it, because we're kind of running out of time, we'll be having You Can't Ask That series at the Death Over Drinks. So if you're coming to the event, and even if you're not coming to the event and you just want to ask that question, we're going to be running a series of these conversations with other end-of-life Wonder Woman type people over the next month. Just flick us a question and we'll answer it.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. There's a whole team here. Yeah, willing to get involved and do support.
And if people want to find you directly, Ruth, where do they find you directly?
Yep, they can find me either on Ruth Boydell on Facebook, or my business name is Lifetimes End-of-Life Support. So I'm Lifetimes Doula on Instagram, and lifetimes.net.au on the web. And I'm happy to talk to people about all sorts of things. I work with talking to people about compassionate end-of-life choices. I'm an advocate of people having real choices at the end of life. I help people with planning, doing their advanced care directives, and I'm happy to work with people who are interested in their spiritual care. I'm a non-religious spiritual practitioner, and I'm also part of a group called a Threshold Choir, and we sing at the bedside of people who are dying. And these are
how beautiful!
I guess they're kind of lullabies, adult lullabies, and they're very beautiful. And it's a great privilege to sing for people.
Beautiful, so beautiful. Great.
Yeah, and I also run death cafes. So that's a place, another place where people can have a conversation around death.
Where they can just show up. Do you have one coming up, or where would they find those, and where?
I'm running an online third Sunday of the month. I run an online one, and that's usually in the Newcastle Compassionate Community, the links to that. And or if they go to Death Cafe Newcastle, Australia, they can find the link in there as well. Yeah, to the online one, and then occasionally And I do a little newsletter as well called the Deathly News, and that's the newsletter for all the things that are going on in the Hunter community. So that's kind of came out of the Newcastle ComCom as well. So so that's a way of kind of finding out what's going on.
Great. And you are a wealth of knowledge and a little referral system just in yourself. So if anyone can do it and you've got a strange request, Ruth will know who can do it and how to get it done. So
that's right. I know who's doing these things around town. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Ruth, for coming on. you are a wealth of knowledge. So if any of you are interested in knowing more, or you get stuck in an unpleasant situation like I did, there are people that can help and are willing and able and find it a privilege. So thank you again, Ruth.
Yeah, thanks so much, Katrina.